Hey guys, Devan McConnell here. Just wanted to record something for My Thoughts Monday. Um, Something that kind of popped in my head today, spurred on by a conversation on Twitter, as usual. It usually gets things going. Um, Tony Holler, track coach out of Illinois. Carl Valle, we all are familiar with. A couple other people talking about. There was a Twitter post, something about I don't know if it was a track coach or program or somebody, but sort of talking about how they do hang cleans the morning of or the day of competition as a way to sort of prime the nervous system. And there's a little back and forth about whether or not it was a great idea or not. One of the pieces that was brought up was Jimmy Radcliffe, the great coach out of University of Oregon, talking about in the past. Somebody brought up that he had talked about doing something similar, what he would call a Speed Friday, I believe, and would just their Friday lift before a football game, football Saturday, would include snatches and some speed work and things like that, sort of in that same train of thought as far as preparing the nervous system and things like that. And I chimed in just with a piece that we tend to do the same thing in our ice hockey program from a weight room sort of training perspective before. We tend to play Friday, Saturday games, so usually Thursday before practice. We'll go through just a short sort of what I consider a central nervous system primer, kind of plyo med ball circuit. And then kind of in the similar vein, we try to do the same kind of thing from sort of an activation standpoint on the ice in practice from a tactical periodization point of view. So what we tend to do in the weight room prior to practice, at the end of our regular sort of dynamic warm up on a Thursday, we'll do sort of a 4-station power circuit, we call it, 2 to 3 laps, 4 reps apiece. Nothing fatiguing, nothing taxing. Takes maybe 4 minutes, but it's essentially a step and rotate med ball throw, which as hockey players, obviously it's kind of like taking a slap shot. We'll go from there into a what we call a scissor jump or a split squat, jump, kind of a semi-unilateral plyometric, an overhead med ball slam, where we're basically trying to dynamically create. Well, we're trying to create stability through our trunk and our core and our entire sort of pillar system, while at the same time using the med ball to essentially throw us off balance and create some type of challenge to the system. And then we follow that with an assisted bilateral jump. We put bands, super bands around the chin-up bars on our racks, and we do a sort of an assisted jump, a la the triphasic French contrast system, where we're essentially trying to deload our body weight, but have a really rapid response, sort of light, quick, explosive pop off the floor. And we'll do each of these for 4 reps and 2 to 3 laps, just sort of depending on how guys are feeling as we go into practice, with the idea of sort of really having some pop and some spring and some jump in our step going into practice. And then we'll follow that typically with what our day before a game practice looks like, which is a little bit different than, I guess, the traditional. Most of what people talk about, most of what you read about, is the day before a game really want to conserve energy and have a very minimal effort, low intensity, in our case, skate on the ice. We kind of flip the script there a little bit typically, and we'll have a very high intensity. In fact, we do a lot of monitoring on sort of our sports science side from a heart rate perspective. We're looking to have our highest workload or highest trimp per minute practice of the week the day before a game. We keep the volume really short, so the total time on the ice should be the shortest day of the week, but in fact it should be the highest intensity of the week, and we found that to be really beneficial for our athletes going into the weekend. And whether or not this is one of the things that came up on the Twitter feed or thread was, I kind of said this is what we do. Our players really like it. They feel like they've got a lot of pop Friday night for the game. Now, whether or not this is placebo or not, I have no idea why it works, but I can tell you that at least for our guys, in our situation, it does. And I really think that, especially, again, the on ice portion, sort of the tactical periodization side of things, what I think is most beneficial, I think there's some nervous system excitation. I think there's some residual, explosiveness, or I don't know. I'm sort of throwing things, up against the wall to see if it sticks. But I can tell you that from a mentality standpoint, it's really important for us because we go into the weekend when we practice that way on a Thursday. The way that we get those loads on a Thursday is to have a really competitive, really high compete, high battle type practice. We're typically a gritty kind of blue collar team, and when we practice that way, when guys are competing, when they've got a little edge to them, when they're cross checking each other in front of the net a little bit and getting into each other's faces, we tend to start that way on Friday, and that's usually how we're successful. If we have a real light skate on Thursday and we kind of just floating around and everybody's feeling good and thinks it's going to be really easy, well, we kind of start that way on Friday night, and traditionally in our program, that is not a good recipe for us. So just an interesting kind of aside to the Twitter thread that was going on earlier today that I jumped into that just made me think a little bit, and something I wanted to talk about. Again, sort of our template is a short, explosive kind of power emphasis workout, really just the end of our dynamic warm-up day before a game, where we really want to try to emphasize having some pop and some jump and some tempo. And then in practice, we kind of follow that up from the same perspective from a tactical periodization standpoint, and we really want to have a lot of compete, a lot of battle, and really high workload per minute. In our case, what we look at is trimp from a heart rate perspective, but regardless of how you measure that, we want to have sort of a high effort but very, very low volume day, and that tends to get guys in a good place Friday night for games. So just something to think about, something that we do that may or may not work in different programs or in different different teams and different personnel, but something that was on my mind that I want to talk about. All right, guys, take care.